Alright, well, hello everyone there. My name is Steven, also known as Stakuyi there on TikTok. This is my wife, Gabby, also known as Not Gabby on TikTok. Well, by popular demand, we are here creating a YouTube series. Basically, the gist of what it is that we are going to do is that during the week, we are not really able to cover much on a topic. We're only able to cover 60 seconds because that is the limit that TikTok gives us. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take some of the most popular requests that we have to talk about during the week, and we are going to try and put that in a more long-form format here to discuss it.
Basically, he will talk a lot, and I will sit here and smile or nod, or just zone out.
I mean, to be fair, we wouldn't have a lot of these until you actually ask things in the first place, but that is what it's going to be like. So, if you have any suggestions, anything that you want to cover, please feel free to message us here below, put it in the comments. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. So anything you want us to do, cover, talk about, well, you want him to talk about and me to react to, just let us know in the comments and subscribe so that we know you want to see our content.
Yep. Pretty much that.
So for the first video, we want to talk about harems.
Harems. The first thing that people demanded that we talk about,
So the very first video that really blew up was him basically talking about harems. It was a joke video, but everyone was super curious as to the different types throughout history. So which one do you want to talk about? Because there's so much to unpack.
There really is. I mean, the one that would know more detail of in the first place would be like the Ottoman style, because people were angry with us when we spoke about harems. You have to be general when talking about something when you only have 60 seconds. So apparently people took offense at the idea of Islamic harems, because I say that as a generalization because there are differences between the branches of Islam. There's differences with culture. There's difference with political region. In some places you would have only up to 3 wives. Some places it was 4. For some there was one main wife and the rest would be considered concubines. In others, you have a wide-scale political system that would be used, as in the case of the Ottomans, which that is something that we're going to discuss here a bit in further today. So when it came to the Ottoman harem system, that is something that I was saying you might actually be able to function in. Sort of. I mean, it's got enough backstabbing and drama in it, so I think...
I'm good at backstabbing.
Yes, I know you are. Yes. So it would have enough drama filling it that I think that you would find your own form of entertainment.
I don't really think I'd function well in a harem, mainly because I just hate people and would love to be left alone. So
that's also why I wouldn't function well in life, but that is for a different reason entirely. Don't hate me.
Just explain your thing.
So, the way that an imperial harem worked within the Ottoman Empire was that, of course, you have at the top was the Sultan, but the Sultan was not necessarily the top position within the harem itself. That was his mother, which, that's going to sound very weird saying, but the highest ranking position within the Ottoman's, harem was the mother of the current Sultan, who was known as the Valide Sultan. Now, the thing about the Valide Sultan is that she held absolute power within the imperial harem. She would determine who would be in it, what time they would be sleeping with the Sultan, even who would be doing the sleeping. Basically, imagine if your mother controlled your sex life in a way that is more controlling than even the most Christian of mothers, or the most Indian auntie. That's basically what it was. Underneath her was the Haseki Sultan. This was the main wife. Now, the way that worked is that oftentimes you would have the Haseki Sultan, who was the main wife, who was the highest position. But this position wasn't guaranteed. Oftentimes she would secure her own political authority within the harem, but at the same time, she could be replaced. If she was having difficulty bearing children, if she was found to be conspiring against the Sultan, if she fell out of favor for some reason, either the Sultan may dismiss her, Or the valide, the mother-in-law, would dismiss her. The mother-in-law would hold absolute authority, as we previously discussed. Yeah, I know, I can see the face just going up here and just how angering that is for you, like the pain.
I love mother-in-laws. Anyway, moving on. A big comment that people made was Islam doesn't allow multiple wives unless you're able to treat each wife the exact same, and that's like a stipulation in there. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was like one of the most commented criticisms, I think.
True and not true. So it is true in the sense that that is something that is a guideline within Islam. It does not mean that it is followed under every sect, nor every culture within different sects. So one has to understand as well, and people who are familiar with American history at all, at one point in time we had separate but equal facilities between people of a darker persuasion and a not so dark persuasion. And you know very well that those were anything but equal, despite being separate. As a result, this is something where jealousies would run rampant within these relationships. So...
No. Jealousy about sharing your husband? Nah. I'd share you, actually, because she can listen to you talk for, like, the entire day, and then I can come back when you're done talking and you're like quiet, and I'd be like, wow, thanks, sister wife.
Bruh.
You're mean to me all the time. You can take it. Sorry.
She says as she stabs me in the leg with her nails.
I missed. Anyway.
So, underneath the Sultan and his wife and mother, you actually have two different styles of positions. One, you have the eunuchs. The eunuchs are the ones that take care of all the women within the harem. At the same time, you have the concubines. Now, the concubines or secondary wives are not necessarily wives of the Sultan. This is where people get kind of confused because they think that just because it is a harem that it is inherently sexual. That is not the case. See, the Ottoman imperial harem was a political entity. So the majority of women that made up the imperial harem members were actually slaves. They were slaves, servants, and people related to those. So what would happen is you might be called forth as a concubine of the Sultan if he wanted it, but most of your life that you were there, you were spent raised within this harem that would train you, teach you, guide you. And then what would happen is that the Sultan would oftentimes marry the members of his harem, who were mostly slaves, to administrators within the empire. And this was a way that the Sultan was actually able to maintain control and authority over his advisors, over his generals, over his administrators of the different provinces within the empire. Because even if he did not necessarily get to control that administrator, he could control his wife. That was something that he had full authority over and could effectively plant spies without his entire empire.